Hello and welcome to today's video as we're going to preview the LNG and Weibo series that are going to take place tomorrow at quarterfinals in Worlds 2024. On the board here we have 11 games worth of stats to discuss, some key ones, how to look at these two teams that are well acclimated with each other. Like I said, they've played 11 times during the LPL season, the majority of which were in the playoffs, two separate series that the teams would split. So overall, LNG holds the season series 7-4. Well, sorry, the summer season split series 7-4. I'm not including spring because technically, two-fifths of this Weibo roster is not the same. And without even looking, I'm not sure if Mark or Hung actually played for LNG when they may have played Weibo during spring. So 7-4. We have the stats from their individual matchups. And let's just compare for a minute. So, because LNG won the majority of the games, their KDAs certainly are stronger in every way. Zika's much better. I mean, you look at the jungle roles and the support roles, of course, those two, more deaths and therefore KDAs being less because, well, hell. I mean, they're the facilitator roles more often than not. That does not necessarily mean, though, it is always the case. Like I said, more often than not. But when we look at Tarzan's stat line, he was more of a carry than a facilitator, and we saw his picks. I mean, he played a cart this game for crying out loud. So not necessarily a facilitator quite as much as Wei is. And this is a matchup that, I mean, I would say is one that's been long coming because we think about it. Weibo and LNG last year went to Worlds, played, and had deep runs at the international event and swap junglers. So that is a thing. So KDA leaders, I mean, the 80 carries, Gala 5.8, and then Light 3.3. In terms of damage share, though, so how do these teams, get damage? Who deals the damage? So top side, in terms of the top lane role, very similar. Both teams around 22% of the team's damage. But in the jungle role, we see the biggest difference here. So 17%, or actually less than that, for LNG, and over 20% for Weibo. And if you remember of the summer split, that is definitely a surprising stat there, right? Because not everybody's like that. Not surprising is probably not the word. That's a very that's a very telling stat that Weibo, a lot of their value, at least against LNG, came from Tarzan into Weiwei. In terms of the carry-oriented roles, the traditional ones, we did see LNG get more out of their mid and 80 carry, and hell, that's because the jungler wasn't playing as heavy carry. Support, I mean, I threw up there just for shits and giggles. I mean, we don't really care how much damage the support's dealing unless it's getting into double digits or something, and we see a big difference, but 6% is pretty standard. So damage leaders, I mean, in terms of carries, it's 1A, 1B situation in LNG's case with Gala and Scout. And it's a little more different with LNG. I mean, sure, Scout has like 1% more, so I guess he's a little bit more clear of a carry than, not Scout, sorry, Xiaohu over Light in terms of damage share. But the jungler role definitely plays a pivotal part in this because due to all that jungle damage coming in for Weibo, they could have 4 different carry threats where LNG it's clearly 3. Gold share. So who's getting the resources? That's something important, right? Who is getting those resources? And in the case of LNG, it's Scout at 24%. Top side, very similar. But clearly, Scout has much more of a gold share than Light. It's a 1% difference. You could say, oh, it's just 1%. But we see with Weibo, it's even 23.9 for both Xiaohu and Light. So it is a 1A, 1B situation in terms of resources, and LNG not quite as much. Now, support role, half a percentage difference. That's not anything really to scoff at. And surprisingly enough, I mean, Weiwei is getting quite a share of the team's gold. I mean, it's almost the same amount as Tarzan's, but yet Tarzan's dealing a lot more damage. And yes, facilitator role for Weiwei, but one has to argue, why do you want to invest that much gold into your jungler relative to everybody else. And we've seen LNG do very well during Swiss stage, and that was evident in my All Pros video where I think I had Zika and Scout on the top three. I believe so. Return on investments, that's damage divided by gold. Very simple. Who is giving the most return? Top lane is even at 1.39, so both carry oriented. But in the jungle role, we see a big difference, 1.28 and 1.53. Actually, Tarzan has the best ROI on his team. He's doing the most damage relative to gold, and in the case of Weiwei, he's fourth. And that's not a big shock because we're looking at these profiles. We can kind of articulate what's going on. Scout and Xiaohu both very similar, around 1.5 to 1.6, but in the 80 carry role, we see a big difference. So Gala carrying much harder than Light in the damage department. 1.66 leading his team, where Gala is 1.46 and is third on his. Sorry, Gala's leading and Light is third on his. So big difference, right? Where's our damage coming from? We think of 80 carry, we think of carry, right? And not necessarily the case for Weibo relative to LNG and Gala. Now, gold difference at 15 minutes. LPL gave us that stat this year. Thankfully, it had been a long time coming. So when we divide it out, Zika on average had a 200 gold lead over Breathe. Both are top three in my All Pro, so that is something to monitor going into this weekend. Well, actually tomorrow, that top lane matchup could go either way, especially with how well Breathe is playing, surprisingly well. I think I had him 12th going into this event in the top lane role. 400 gold lead for Tarzan. I mean, if he's farming to 6, then that's going to happen. Mid lane role, Scout slightly ahead, 100 gold, so might as well be even between the future Hall of Famers and Scout and Xiaohu. Bot lane duo, Weibo favored, 330 gold. That's interesting too, isn't it? That Weibo's bot lane do get ahead in the first 15 minutes, but as the game goes along, LNG find a way to be more effective and deal more damage and thus win more games. Damage usually leads to wins. Not always the case, but I think it's a safe bet. If you're dealing the damage, you have a good chance to win. This matchup, I think, could go either way. I know a lot of people are heavily favoring LNG. I think that, if for some reason Weibo do win, they're going to be surprised. I think that Weibo could take this. They just beat LNG a month or so ago in a best of 5. And yes, they got 3-0 shortly thereafter, but the point is they did win. So they are capable of doing it. They showed it. In terms of matchup, I mean, LNG, like I said, their solo laners are outplaying Weibo's. But Tarzan has that carry X factor that I don't think Weiwei really has. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. If you like the video, like it, subscribe to the channel for daily League of Legends content. Follow me on Twitter, join the Discord, become a YouTube supporter, and hope to see you again tomorrow.